Good morning to everyone, and it's my pleasure to be invited for this um, webinar and to share my insights to the first study by Dr. Hirin and the rest of the team. I'm quite familiar also with the LCSFC work and data. First of my presentation, this is just an outline of. This is very short, but this is just a guide of the things that I want to share, based from the study being presented. First is I would like to define what bullying is, what constitutes it. I think it's very important because there are several behaviors that might manifest somewhat like bullying, but might not qualify as bullying, and also the challenges, and of course the opportunities. What we can do from the data presented. There's already the policies that are being written, and the notes, and also the Republic Act has been in place. But how do we move forward from there? So first is the definition of bullying. So I think we really need to see how it is defined by scholars. It's defined as an aggressive, intentional act carried out by a group or an individual repeatedly and over time against a victim who cannot easily defend him or herself. So by definition, if we search the literature, there are three core elements what makes bullying act. So first, it must be repeated, meaning it's not just one time, maybe the following week. So within a month, the experience um, is there more than once. Second, intentional. There's really the intention to hurt, to embarrass, to, whether physical or emotional. There's the intention to hit on the particular individual or a particular student. So usually because they're vulnerable, they don't look the same, they're different, or they're weak. So it's really there's the intention of hurting, the intention of the aggression. And second, it involves a power imbalance. So it means that somebody dominates another weaker individual. So this definition is important in determining and distinguishing bullying from other incidents. There can, because since this occurs among peers, frequently occurs among peers, kaya sa school setting siya palagi. And there's an increasing rate already of bullying in the digital space, because they interact also in the digital space. So it happens in a certain social interaction and usually among the same age group. And some are out of conflicts among friends. Baka may mga conflicts sila among themselves or revenge or something. So these behaviors are aggressive behaviors, but not all aggression actually qualifies for bullying. So it's important that we know the core elements of bullying, because we might get some data that we thought or we close to bullying, but it was out of conflict from friends, or if from parents, it was about discipline, it's just about reprimanding. So I think that's one thing we can streamline, in looking at the concept of bullying. With this, actually, there are challenges in looking. I think this is also one of the reason there was difficulty in the implementation or setting up programs. No? First is really measuring the bullying, operationalization of the construct itself. So studies have shown that there are variations in the rates of prevalence of bullying, and this is due to the fact that one study might measure it differently than the other studies. So I think we go back again to the definition and try to find a common way of understanding the construct and have a common or consensus on how to measure what we call bullying. But the construct itself is not simple. So there is complexities in what we call bullying because it overlaps also with other experiences, negative and aggressive experiences of the student. So there is what we call adverse childhood experience, and bullying is one, but there are also a range of what we call adverse childhood experience. Uh, Looking or observing or witnessing some violence at home or even at the neighborhood can be an adverse childhood experience. So the complexity of bullying is there. Plus, as I've mentioned, there's already an increased rate of bullying in the digital space. Something that we monitor less. No? Sa school kasi we can look at it, it will be reported, ganun. May mga policies sa school. We can, look. However, in the digital space, we have less control on what they click, and they have been involved in a lot of social interactions in which hindi natin na makikita, no? So we don't know how they manage the information that they get, the feedbacks that they get, even from strangers, no, from a single post, or so it instigates certain negative affect, no. So hindi natin alam how far, although the LCSFC data study has actually data also on how often mga screen times and what do they do online. So it would be nice also to put that in because that's an increasing phenomenon on them being bullied online by strangers. And this is really something that complicates things also. No? If the policies are built for a school infrastructure and programs, eto hindi natin, it's less, we have less control for that. And with that, there are opportunities. So we've seen from the study of Dr. Hirin and team that the questions are about whether they were being hurt by a friend or a classmate or being physically or emotionally hurt by parents. So I think since the LCSFC data is longitudinal, it has really a vast, an array of variables that we can work on. So choosing variables based also of the construct as we define it, kasi ang dami, no? So there are individual factors, there are social factors, there are community, there's a family factor. Streamlining these factors can give us some way of really focusing certain effects or influence of exposure variables towards what outcome variable. It can be schooling. Even in schooling, if you would see in the data, if you notice, no, as children mature, there's a decrease of percentage of them experiencing emotional hurt from parents and also from friends. However, if you look at the graph that was presented, there's also an increase of students being already off track in school. So as they age, mas dumadami na din ang number of students who came to school not really on track. No? They missed some years. And it would be nice to look, did they miss it because of economic reasons? So meaning money or health. So there are different angles in looking at all of these variables, no, from exposure and outcome. So we can select So we can see the trend. We can focus. So it's more directed, and which variables really contribute, which variables really, because the variables interact. No? As what Dr. Rin said, ang dami, no? Ang daming variables. What was interesting is also the social aspect variable kasi andun yung questions of membership of groups, membership of clubs, and it shows some quality, level of quality of the relationship with friends. So it's a strength, and I think it's nice to look at it and include it, and perhaps also identifying what we call buffers. We've seen, interestingly, that being hurt by friends was more of a positive, seem to buffer. So it's nice to look at it. Bakit kaya hindi siya sa usual trend, no? Sa hindi siya sa expected trend. So with all these variables, we can identify moderators, mediators. We can play around and try to zero in what are the things really can help, no, as protective factors, and what are those that would enhance as that would profile who are most likely to be bullied, and even who are the bullies, no, the characteristics of bullies. But again, it's the complexity is there. There's no such thing as one profile for these characteristics. So another opportunity, of course, is the as what Dr. Helena's mentioned. There have been Republic Acts. No, we have the Anti-Bullying Act, and we also have the Mental Health, no, Act, which can go in hand in hand. However, when it comes to already implementation, even at the school level and even at private schools, there have been challenges to it. But one area that we can perhaps look and enhance, this was mentioned in the positive response to bullying. So we might not have control over what they look, or how they interact with their friends. We don't have much control of family dynamics, no? Hindi naman natin makokontrol na dapat ano, no, well yung, or well adjusted yung bata, if and only if, no. So there are circumstances that put them really on a negative situation, something that we are not of control with. So even in school, how they process information, how they process feedback, how they process aggression, they receive from others. But we can also help them maneuver, because not all not all students bullied end up negatively. So there are those who can maneuver and move around and can positively, you know, move forward. So it's nice to look at what was in between, what was something different from them, and also a focus on the self enhancement, as mentioned by Dr. Hereen, self image, self concept. Dami nating programs we can test, even and simulate in schools, and see if this would help, enhance self-esteem, so they can manage well how others might, because there are really children that are vulnerable for this, and studies have already pointed out who are these children that are more vulnerable being bullied. Remember that bullying involves the power relation. So there has to be a dominant somebody to pick on this person because of how he looks, and all of other characteristics. So the focus, if prevention is difficult, because of course it's an infrastructure to be placed in school, and there are challenges within schools, we can focus also on positive enhancement of not just the bullied, but everybody, the students, on developing a positive sense of self, thereby also helping them not to bully other kids. So I think the data is so rich. It's a matter of streamlining, looking at the construct really of bullying and trying to identify certain variables that can really, and then we will have a more focused direction of the study, and that would help specify particular programs and prevention activities that is more directed, and we can test it actually in schools. No? Pa-konti-konti lang. It doesn't have to be big, but we're there. The data is already there. Thank you.